Helping Your Child Learn to Read, a Parent Guide. Hi parents, here at St Nicholas School, we would like to invite you on a journey with us to help your child master the lifelong skill of reading. Welcome to this presentation, Helping Your Child Learn to Read, a Parent Guide. We hope the following information will assist parents to support teachers with the task of teaching our children to read. In this presentation, we will outline 5 big ideas or main areas that we focus on when teaching a child to read. Phonemic awareness and phonics, supported reading, pause, prompt and praise, storybook reading, and sight words. We hope you gain a few helpful tips from this presentation as we work together in partnership to give your child the best education possible. Phonemic awareness and phonics.
What is phonemic awareness? Phonemic awareness is a subset of phonological awareness. So what that means is if you look at the pink umbrella diagram on the screen, that is representing phonological awareness. And that's the broad concept that relates to the structure of spoken language. Underneath, we have all the substrands that students need to have an understanding of in order to achieve phonological awareness. So the pink umbrella. These are word awareness, rhyme, syllables, onset and rhyme, and lastly, phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness relates specifically to the individual phonemes. So phonemes meaning the individual sounds that form the words of Australian English. We have 43 phonemes in Australian English, and with phonemic awareness, no writing is involved. So students can do phonemic awareness with their eyes closed. So what are phonics? Well, phonics is the understanding that there is a systematic connection between the phonemes heard in oral language and the graphemes. So they're the letter or letter combinations we use to represent each sound in writing. It's also used to describe the teaching of reading and spelling by focusing on a sound to letter correspondence. Unlike phonological awareness, phonics activities integrate sound and print. So phonemic awareness can be done with your eyes closed. Phonics brings in the writing aspect. Now, Australian English. There are 43 phonemes or sounds. We have 24 consonant sounds and 19 vowel sounds in Australian English. A lot of you may think we only have 26 sounds. However, we have 26 letters that form the alphabet. So we're using these letters to represent the spoken sounds of Australian English. For example, if you think of the letter A, a lot of you might think A says A, as in apple. In the word was, the A is saying an ot sound. In the word after, the A is saying an R sound. And in the word pizza, the A is making a sound. Now, I've already referred to these. These are the 2 key terms the students use at school. So instead of saying sounds, we say the word phoneme. And a phoneme is a single sound of a language. Easiest way to remember is if you put one of your hands in a phone-like position and hold that up to your ear. Think of being on the phone, it's what you hear. So in the word cat, we count how many phonemes we can hear. So how many sounds we can hear. K, a, t. There's 3 sounds, or we say 3 phonemes. A grapheme is a letter or letter combination that we use to represent each individual sound in written form. So if we go back to the word cat, where we had our 3 sounds, the k phoneme can be represented by the C grapheme. The A phoneme can be represented by an A, and the T can be represented by a T. So easiest way to remember this as well, grapheme, think of like a graph, it's what you're writing down. As previously mentioned, phonemic awareness can be done with your eyes closed. So here are some games that from a young age students start working on, starting with isolation and then moving through to manipulation activities. So students are asked in isolation, what is the first sound in cat? What is the last sound in fish? And what is the middle sound in sit? So games like that where you're finding the individual sound in a word. Then we move on to blending, where we blend those sounds together. So in our word pan, we go pan. And then segmenting is where we start counting the individual sounds. So how many sounds in at? There's 2, at. How many sounds in cat? And manipulation. That's where we're creating other words by removing a phoneme. And this is where we're also exploring onset and rhyme. So what word do we get if we take the k from cat? Counting sounds. This is helping students with their segmenting by being able to count the sounds before progressing to phonics, which is selecting appropriate graphemes to write on paper. We teach the students 4 steps when segmenting words. First thing is to look at the word. If it's in front of them, then close their eyes or look away. We encourage this as we don't want them to be influenced by the number of letters in the word. Then we get the students to say the word aloud slowly and naturally. For example, yellow. After you've said the word once, you will then say it again, but as phonemes. So we encourage students to make a fist and put 1 finger up for each sound they hear. I go back to the word yellow, y, e, u, o. So I have 4 fingers up. I know there are 4 sounds in the word yellow. As you can see by the words on the screen, we can then return to the word we were segmenting and either write the number 4, or we can represent the number of sounds using tallies. Can you see why it's important for students to look away from the word when segmenting? As the word yellow, it has 6 letters, but only has 4 sounds. Process for reading. For students to decode, so to be able to read the words in front of them, it's vital they know all 43 sounds of Australian English. At school, infants do a chant and action song daily to get them familiar with the sounds. For reading, we get them to segment the word into its individual graphemes. Next, using the knowledge of the 43 sounds, they can allocate an appropriate sound to each grapheme before blending the sounds together. Process for writing. The process for writing words is flipped around, as the word may not be there in front of them. Instead, they're told the word. Again, they say the word aloud, then listen and count the sounds, and then they choose the correct grapheme to represent the phoneme. Students are taught lots of spelling hints at school to help them when selecting appropriate graphemes. Segmenting into graphemes. One way the students practice segmenting at school, and you can do this at home, it's by drawing boxes or using word strips. So again, we encourage students to count the sounds first and then draw that number of boxes if you're drawing them, or you can pop a dot above each box in the row if using a word strip before selecting appropriate graphemes to put in each box. Now remember, a grapheme can be a letter or a letter combination. For instance, if we look at the word yellow, we know there's 4 sounds, but the double L is together. That's a letter combination. They have to be together to make that oo sound. So any of the words on the screen you can see right now with letters, more than one letter in a box, they are all together to make that sound. And it's really important to note that students do not write the word whilst counting the sounds. Because if they were doing that with yellow, they would end up with 6 filled boxes rather than the 4. So they must count the sounds first in order to know how many boxes they will use to represent the sounds. Voiced and unvoiced sounds. So with the 43 sounds, we have voiced, where you make a sound when saying the phoneme, and that includes all vowel sounds. They are all voice sounds. And then you have unvoiced, and that's where only air comes out of your mouth. Our consonants are a mixture of voiced and unvoiced sounds. This is really important as a lot of people think when they hear the sound k in a word, they will actually say k. The same with p. They will voice the sound p. The tip we teach the students is to rest our hand on our throat. And when we create a voice sound in the words, where we're bringing out our voice, we will be able to feel vibration. When we say unvoiced sounds, there is no vibration.
Supported reading. Supported reading is an excellent strategy to use at home with readers that your child brings home from school. It is different to storybook reading that is also mentioned in this presentation, where the adult is reading. In supported reading, it is the child who is reading and you are guiding or supporting them. It is used in the early years of reading development, and it links the child's vocabulary knowledge, their comprehension and fluency. It also links isolated reading skills that are learnt to the book. Home readers are often phonics-based and use high-frequency words or sight words. These books may seem basic or simple and repetitive to us as adults. However, they're designed to build confidence and fluency in young readers, building their independent reading skills. Repeated reading of the same text helps build fluency, which includes reading to punctuation and using expression. Before starting to read the book, look at the front cover and discuss the title and pictures. See if your child can make any personal connection to the words or pictures using their prior knowledge or experiences. If this is the first time reading the book, have them predict what the story may be about. Once you've started reading, you can use the pictures to help you tell the story, using them as clues. Your child may be able to identify familiar sight words within the book. If your child's not able to read a word or makes a mistake, rather than telling them the word, encourage and support them to work it out. You may need to model how to sound out a word, identify it as a sight word, use the initial sound and picture clue, or you may need to read on or reread the sentence to work out its meaning. If the word is too unfamiliar or too difficult, such as the word camouflage, tell them the word and discuss its meaning. Every second or third page, check your child's understanding of what has been read so far by asking a couple of comprehension questions. Self-monitoring by using a finger to track words is a helpful strategy in the early years of reading. Another simple technique to use to support reading is pause, prompt, praise. This is explained in its own section in this presentation. At the end of the book, ask your child to tell you what has happened. Encourage sequential recalling of the events in the story. Ask further comprehension questions that start with who, what, when, where, and then harder questions that start with how, why, what do you think, what if? These questions require the children to reason further and infer. Praise your child for the reading strategies that they have used rather than good reading, well done. Reading levels help match a child's reading skills to home readers. The level of books sent home allow them to read easily to ensure fluency and success. Your child's teacher will determine when a student moves up a reading level or more. The results are obtained from a PM reading running record assessment forms the basis of this decision. This is a very thorough process which takes at least 15 minutes each child. The assessment records reading behaviours, accuracy, errors and self-corrections as they read the text. Comprehension of what is being read is also checked. This slide has some extra tips that may help with reading at home. Pause, prompt and praise. Pause, prompt and praise is a simple but effective technique used to support students with individual reading. It can be used by teachers, educational assistants, classroom volunteers and parents. First, pause. When a child makes an error or does not know a word, the instructor or the adult should pause for about 5 seconds. This can seem like forever, but if you count each finger on one hand, it will give the child some time to self-correct. If they are still unsuccessful, give them a series of prompts. First, give a general prompt and suggest a strategy that they could use to work out the word. If your child cannot work out the word after a second prompt, then simply give them the word. And finally, praise. Praise your child when there's evidence of using different strategies for working out the word, such as self-correcting, sounding out, correcting after a prompt, rereading a sentence or the paragraph or page correctly, reading carefully and using expression, and following along with their finger. The following video is an excellent video that puts into practice pause, prompt and praise.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mr. Lamb's classroom. Today I have a great reading strategy for all the parents out there to use when your child is reading. The strategy is called pause, prompt, praise. And these words can be used when your child is stuck on a word in a book and it aims to develop more confidence in their reading. The first step is pause. Once your child is reading, carefully follow the text they are reading. If they become stuck on a word, try not to jump in straight away. Wait and give your child time to work out that word, because pausing gives them a chance to self-correct and eventually work out that word.
Jack ran to Mum. We are going in the car, said Mum. Where is Billy?
The next step is prompt. If your child has not been able to work out that word, prompt them with some strategies about what they could do to try work out that word. Strategies could include saying it slowly, saying the first sound, looking for a part they know inside the word, looking at the picture, or even reading back. If prompts like these aren't working, this is a point where you simply just tell them the word. The whole idea is for your child to have a go at working at that word. Try not to spend too much time prompting on a particular word, as your child will start to lose the meaning of the book.
Mum and Jack looked and looked for Billy. Billy is
What can you try there?
send it out slowly.
Yep, you try it.
Hiding. Billy is hiding, said Mum.
The next step is praising, and this is the easiest part of the process because as parents this comes naturally. Praise your child for their reading efforts and their successes during their reading time. As well as praising, it's often good to tell them why. This will give your child a clear understanding of what they're doing well, and they'll most likely try the same strategy again the next time they're reading, which is what we want them to do.
Mum and Jack looked and looked for Billy. Billy is hiding. Billy is hiding, said Mum.
I love the way you stretched out that word and you read back. Well done.
That's all from me today. Please try the pause, prompt and praise strategy the next time when you read with your child, whether it be in the classroom, at home, reading on the lounge, or even before you go to sleep. And hopefully you'll start seeing some positive results in your child's reading. It's also important that you pick a book which is at the right level for your child in order for the strategy to be most effective. I'm Mr. Lamb, and stay tuned for some more fantastic tips soon. See ya!
Storybook reading. Storybook reading is utilising books from our own St Nicholas School Library, the town library, and most likely books you have at home that will be quality literature. These books will be centred around interests your child may have. You, the adult, will use expressive and fluent reading. Really make your book come to life. Only for about 7 to 10 minutes so your child doesn't lose interest. Make it a positive and enjoyable listening experience for your child. Make sure you're in a comfy position, a favourite comfy chair perhaps, or laying somewhere where you are both comfortable. When you are selecting a book, as I have said, use quality books. You don't have to worry about your child's reading ability because it is you, the adult, who is reading to them. Make sure that it contains vocabulary that will challenge your child. They may ask you, what does that word mean? And make sure it is of interest to the child. When you are introducing the book, ask a few questions. What can you see on the front cover? What do you think the story is about? Pictures often give us a lot of clues as to what the story may be about. Read the title. By doing these things, we're trying to gain a child's interest. We're trying to get their own personal connection or experience happening with the story. We know children love to talk about their experiences, and this will help the understanding of the story. For example, if it's about a birthday, discuss a birthday party you may have had with your child, or a birthday party they may have attended, and this can help enhance the story. When you are reading the book to your child, read the entire book. Check if there are any words that they may not understand and talk about these. Talk about them by rereading the sentence and asking them perhaps if they may know what the word is implying, and then help them out if they don't know. At the very end, review the story by asking, can you remember what happened in the beginning of the story? And what happened in the middle section? And then what happened at the end? Every now and then you may need to give a prompt to help expand their answer. Finally, you get to reread the story, asking a question every few pages, such as a literal question. What is actually on this page? What is actually being read? An inferential question means reading between the lines. What do you think might be trying to be said, but not exactly? And sometimes we get these clues also from our pictures. And then evaluative question, what do you think about this? Vocabulary, what does a certain word or a certain few words, a phrase mean? If your child only gives you a short answer question like a yes or a no or I don't know, ask them a few more questions so that they can expand on their answer, so they really start to understand the story and enjoy it. Ask the children the meaning of some difficult words and provide them with some definitions or synonyms for words that they may not know. If the child says the little girl looks happy at the birthday party, what other words do we know that also mean happy? When questioning our children, we need to do more than just ask a question that will say yes or no, as I have previously said. Have high expectations of your children. Make sure they are really listening well and they are answering in a sentence, but also help them out. If they appear to be struggling, they won't enjoy the story and certainly won't want to join you again to reread a story. On the following slides, you will find lists of quality books written by well-known and loved Australian authors.
Sight words. No doubt you are familiar with the term sight words, but what exactly are sight words? Sight words are words that we need to teach children to recognise instantly and without any sounding out or decoding. They are often words that cannot be sounded out, so the idea is to lock them into your child's mind so they can be automatically and easily recalled. Lots of sight words are decodable, which means they can be sounded out, but many sight words can't be sounded out because they don't follow decoding rules. For example, said, was, where. We often fall into the trap as adults, however, of asking children to sound out words they don't know. But if you ask them to sound out the word said, for example, they would say, so a I d, so a I d. So you can see why it's so important that certain words can simply be identified and recalled instantly. Sight words are high-frequency words. That is, words that occur most regularly in reading materials. Sight words are usually introduced at school in lots of 4 or 5. Teachers spend a lot of time focusing on these words in class, but the words are also usually sent home for parents to practice with their children. As you can imagine, learning to read can be tricky. To a beginning reader, words often look like a series of jumbled and meaningless symbols and markings. Imagine if the words in the chart below were represented or replaced with the matching symbols. Even as adults, we would initially find it challenging to remember and make sense of these. With this in mind, it is easier to understand just how important it is to help our students to learn and practice their sight words. So, why do we teach sight words? We want our children to learn to read with ease. So students who know their sight words well have a really good base for beginning reading instruction. We want our children to experience success by automatically recognising lots of words in their home readers and other books. The more sight words they have, the better chance they have of reading a text with confidence and ease. When do we teach sight words? Sight word instruction begins in kindergarten and continues into Year 1 and Year 2. It is most important to note, however, that some students will need extra time and will continue learning and practicing their sight words well beyond Year 2. The sight words we teach are not just random choices. We teach sight words based on standard lists. The list we teach them from consists of 200 high-frequency words. It's quite a powerful statistic to note that these words make up 50 to 75% of all the words found in regular reading material. In other words, once children learn all of these words, their chance of reading success increases enormously. So how do we teach and practice sight words? At school, our teachers use a range of strategies when working with sight words. There's flashcard drill and practice, lots of sight word games, and recording sight words on word walls. Flashcard drill and practice is when a stack of sight words or cards are used for lots of fast-paced, short bursts of repetition in the classroom. This helps children recognise their sight words instantly, and it helps commit them to their long-term memory. Sight word games are a fun and engaging way to reinforce sight word retention. These are great to play at home over a 5 to 10 minute session. Treasure hunt. Line up 10 sight words and hide a sticker or a coin underneath one. If your child reads the word correctly, they get to look underneath to see if they've found the treasure. Sight word fishing can be played with a magnet on the end of a fishing line and paper clips on the sight word cards. Children fish for a word but can only keep it if they can read the word correctly. For a bit of fun, play silly sentences. Simply use the sight word cards to make nonsense sentences. Fridge or TV code is an idea which came from one of our parents. They would blue tack 4 or 5 sight words on the fridge door or on the TV remote, and their child was only ever allowed to access if they could read the code words. Kids love playing stepping stones. The cards across the carpet represent stepping stones in a river. If a word is read correctly, they proceed towards the other side. But if it's read incorrectly, they fall into the crocodile-infested river. And towers. This is a great pair game. From a stack of sight words, take turns choosing a word. If it's read correctly, it gets added to your tower. Kids love trying to beat their parents at this game. And finally, word walls. This is a fabulous classroom resource which is built up throughout the year. This becomes a really valuable references for our students. So, as mentioned, there are lots of great tips and resources available on the internet. These are just a few. Just remember though that when you're working with sight words at home, keep it fun, fast-paced and limited to no more than 5 to 10 minutes a session. So thank you for taking the time to view this presentation, but most importantly, enjoy reading with your children at home.